Hey guys. Hey guys, it's the Prof here. I want to do a little video series about playing video games with my daughter. It's something that I didn't think we would be doing so quickly, but this pandemic has been pretty crazy in terms of how much time we're sitting around the house. Obviously our daughter is not going to preschool right now. You know, she just turned 3. She's been going to preschool since she was 1.5. With the pandemic, she's out and she's spending a lot of time with us, obviously. So we're at home playing just a ton with her, spending a lot of time with her, giving her a ton of attention. But we've had to change our screen time rules just a little bit. Initially, our screen time, for a long time, once we started to introduce screens around 1.5 years, 2 years, we did 1 day a week. It was a Saturday, and we would do half an hour. And what we would normally do is a half an hour of something like Llama Llama on Netflix, Daniel Tiger on PBS Kids, something with a message, something educational, something fun, engaging for her to watch. But once the pandemic hit, we started to relax our screen time a little bit. We would do once a week at the beginning, but there's just such intense play with her throughout the week. We were spending so much time together that we were looking for things to do with her that were different than what we'd do normally with the play and other things. So we started to have a conversation about having more screen time. And that became, once every 2 days. Then it became once a day. Where it's at currently is twice a day, once before nap, once after nap, half an hour. So a half an hour in the morning, half an hour at night. And we struggled a lot with how much screen time is appropriate for a 3-year-old. We knew the answer wasn't 0, but the answer is also not very much. So we landed on basically the amount of an episode. So if there's an episode length time, that felt good for us. And then we would be very strict about once before nap, once after nap. And lately it's been, sometimes she won't even ask for it, so we won't even do one of those. There have been days where we haven't had any screen time, which has been nice. But one of the interesting things about the screen time has been the introduction of video games, which is something that I was, as a gamer, was not interested in doing with my daughter until much later, like when she was 5, 6, when she could better engage with what was happening on the screen and realize it was fantasy more than reality. So we worked on that together, talking about, my wife and I talking about like introducing video games a little bit, because it's something that's important to me, where we're home 24 hours a day with her, trying something interesting, something different to keep her engaged. That conversation really started to happen when one day I just happened to pull down my amiibo. I was looking for something new to play with my daughter, and I have a box of a ton of amiibo. So I pulled the amiibo out for her to play with, and she just instantly latched onto the characters. I think just their design. It's I think by design by Nintendo to be really engaging for children. Very clean lines, bright colors. She was very interested in these characters. And one character that she really latched onto is what she calls Baby Link. And Baby Link is Toon Link from Wind Waker. And she just loved that character. She would carry him around with her everywhere, when she went to her grandparents' house or when she stayed with us, because we formed a pod. And over time, we introduced video games to her. Just one game, which was Yoshi's Crafted World on the Switch. It's very bright, colorful, easy to understand. She had a soft Yoshi doll, so she connected to that character as well, plus the Yoshi amiibo that I had. I had the Wii U out for some reason, and I asked her if she wanted to see the Baby Link game, if she wanted to see what that was all about, and she said yeah. So I turned on Wind Waker, and she was just enraptured that the character that she was holding in her hands was on the screen. So in half an hour increments, we started to work our way through Wind Waker. And I have a lot more to say about that topic, but for right now, I just want to talk about how it promoted such pretend play with her. We would play for half an hour, and that would be the end of the story for that day. And then she would want to recreate or make believe or play that story over and over again. And as we were playing that story over and over again, she would then create a new story to go on top of that story, started to create her own world for Baby Link, new adventures, new scenarios, new climbing puzzles. We drew maps. We moved all of our couch cushions into different climbing puzzles. And the Wind Waker game, which is something that I if it were non-pandemic times, I would not have shown her for a long time because the battling is an issue for me, and it became an issue, and that's something I'll talk about in a future video. A minor issue that we didn't want to have happen right now. Because we did this, because we played Wind Waker in this half-an-hour fashion, it just opened up her imagination so much. Like, we had never seen it happen. It just like, it cracked something open inside of her, and she was able to just navigate like our house. It became a new place. It became Outset Island. It became Windfall Island. We made a King of Red Lions out of cardboard and decorated it. We put all the amiibo into the boat and carried them around and rescued them and did different activities with them. I've never been a huge Legend of Zelda fan. The first one I ever beat was Link Between Worlds on the 3DS. I went back to Wind Waker later and beat that. And then this was coming back to Wind Waker with her. Was the first experience with the Legend of Zelda series after Breath of the Wild, which I played on release on Switch and fell in love with it, obviously. But it's never been like my series. I'm more of a platformer fan. I love Mario games. So to have my daughter be obsessed with Link, to be obsessed with Zelda, and to open up into this fantasy world where she is building, exploring stories, building narratives, like it's just nonstop language development. It has done something so fundamentally great for her that I would have absolutely turned myself off of because I didn't want to introduce her to video games this early. You know, so many shitty fucking things about this pandemic. But one bright spot really has been pretend play and her opening up. And it's been because of these narratives that she's been introduced to, both in the shows we watch, but specifically and particularly with The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. She was still, she pulls out the amiibo and she wants a story, and now instead of me just narrating for her a story, she's able to look at the amiibo and make the beginning of a story, and then I will continue it, and then she will continue, and we'll go back and forth. We're just ping-ponging the story back and forth to each other, which ping-pong is interesting actually, because in the Wind Waker, when you're fighting Shadow Ganon and you're basically ping-ponging that energy back and forth. You know, we talked about ping pong and such like that. And I showed her like what an actual ping pong game looks like. Then like a week or two later, she was able to use it as a metaphor. Her mom was telling a story, then my daughter told the next part of the story, and it just went back and forth. And she said, "Mom, we're ping-ponging the story between us." And that was like a metaphorical extension of that language that we had never said to her or never talked about. That's just another example of how this game has really enriched her vocabulary and brought out so much narrative with her. And you know, we struggle with screen time, all parents do, and I think there's a right way to do it, to introduce it slowly and in very regimented increments. Even in this time, I think it's possible to do that, but you've got to, you know, put in the time. The attention that we give her is insane throughout the day, which is hard because we both work full time. Luckily, we have her grandparents in the pod, so they're able to take over a couple days a week so we can get our work done independently. But in the next video, I'm going to talk very specifically about her journey through Wind Waker and let you know what she's seen, how she's reacted to it, and talk about the magic that happened with Wind Waker. So looking forward to telling you about that next time.